All right, thank you, everyone. This is the April 3rd, I gotta remember that, 2024 community update for PatternFly. Today we're gonna be talking about the new V6 Alpha. I've even got a 6 to come along with me on this ride today. So we've actually got a number of people who are gonna be presenting today, and we'll do some demos and we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So I just wanted to share an update with everyone. The alpha is in the progress of being live and released officially on the PatternFly site. So very exciting. It's been a long time coming. So yeah, there's a lot to talk about. So let's just dive right in. I'll go into slideshow mode here. And so the alpha, we're going to talk about some of the design philosophy, design tokens, which is something that is shared between both designers and developers on the core team. And we'll go over the general core updates, React updates, and do some nice demos. And we'll follow up with the timeline for the rest of the V6 release and some of the testing requirements that we have. So I'm actually going to pass it over to Lucia. I'll keep driving the slides, but we're going to talk about the philosophy.
Thanks. For those of you who I haven't met yet, I'm Lucia. I'm a designer on the PatternFly team. And I thought it would be good, we thought it would be good to give some like another refresh for why PatternFly 6 is going to look so different. Since its introduction in 2014, PatternFly has had small visual changes, but largely the look and feel of PatternFly and products built using it has remained more or less the same. And a product portfolio that looks locked in time despite the introduction of new features and functionality may be perceived as not keeping up with the latest trends, and innovative must look innovative. You can go to the next slide, yeah. But it's more than just a pretty makeover. We had some two main goals that we wanted to accomplish with this refresh. Our main goals were to align our visuals better with the Red Hat brand and digital portfolio so that the end-to-end experience for Red Hat's customers is consistent and improved. And then we also wanted to support better theming capabilities and improve designer-developer handoff with the introduction of design tokens. So this is a little before and after makeover slide of the new look. This is our current UI and our PatternFly 6 UI. You can go to the next slide. Or wait here and let people absorb it. So that the first goal was aligning with the Red Hat's design language. Although we still are and will continue to operate as an open source community project, our PatternFly UI is the face of all Red Hat products. We wanted to take this moment to better align with the overall Red Hat brand and design language. Like I said earlier, we want our Red Hat products using PatternFly design system to look like Red Hat products. So I put a little screenshot here of Red Hat brand's look and feel if you're not familiar. Updates we did to align with the Red Hat brand included an updated color palette. We're now, in the past, PatternFly's color palette and Red Hat brand's color palette were inconsistent. There were some differences there. So we've had a big effort to align our color palette. We've introduced softer, rounded edges that match better with brand's illustration style. And coming soon, we're going to introduce a new branded UI icon set, which will pair really, really nicely with the Red Hat fonts. And we're also updating our typography styles, which is a work in progress. So between now and the V6 release, you might see some changes there. The other main goal was updating our visuals to support better theming. Our existing look and feel consists of a dark UI outer shell with a light page content area. This made it really difficult to support true light and dark themes across components. So I've got the screenshots on the right there are of the existing UI light and dark themes. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see that we designed V6 with not only light and dark themes in mind, but also any future themes we might eventually have. So here's an example of our new true light and dark themes in V6. You may also notice that we're using fewer colored backgrounds and text in the V6 visuals. This was a design decision made to better guarantee accessible visuals across themes while reducing the amount amount of complexity in our design tokens, which you'll see an example of that in the next slide. On the left, we've got our current V5 inline alerts that use colored text and like pastel background. And you'll see that the colored background really didn't translate well into our existing dark theme. And so this was a joint decision with the design language group here at Red Hat to reduce our use of colored text, because that'll guarantee more flexibility and accessibility as themes progress and new themes are introduced, and really just rely on the icon color and border colors for conveying those status colors. We're also introducing design tokens for V6, which is replacing our old CSS variable system to create a common language from design to development. This will speed up design and implementation of new screens while providing an optimal platform for theming and customization. You can learn more about our new tokens on our site. Our content designer, Aaron, put together some really good resources, and we'll also touch on that later on in this meeting. But for the sake of my presentation, I'm going to more focus on design tokens used in design. We've also moved over to Figma. So these are going to be set up as variables in Figma. Our design tokens and variables are kind of synonymous. But just to recap, design tokens are really important. They are name and value pairings that represent small repeatable design decisions. A token can be a color, font style, border width, border radius, unit of space, or even a micro animation, which is coming soon to PatternFly, designed for a specific need. A single token can have multiple values that change depending on theme. So you'll see in the examples on the right, there's this modal that's designed out with tokens, and you'll see that the icon color regular, it's using a semantic token for both, and it's using the same semantic token in both light and dark themes, and the value is changing based on the theme, not changing based on the token that's being used. The value of that changes. And same with the background color. Both light and dark modes are using the same background color floating default token, but the value changes depending on theme. So all of our design tokens are set up as variables in our new PatternFly 6 design tokens and styles Figma library. Only the semantic tokens are used to define the style and components, which is really nice because it eliminates a lot of the guesswork when trying to decide which design style to apply to an element. You'll know that if you want a success border color, there's a semantic token that says border color success. You don't have to choose like green 350 to get there. So you can access the variables like any other style in Figma, and all our components in Figma are built using the semantic design tokens, which is really nice because, like I said, since all the semantic tokens have light and dark values defined, it makes it really simple to toggle your designs between light and dark mode. It's just a flip of a switch in Figma, and all of the components that are built in our library are supported in dark theme now, and it makes it really easy. You don't have to rebuild your whole screen out with specific dark theme components. It's all baked in. So what's next? We're working on an extensions and patterns Figma library. This is similar to our old sketch template file, but it will now include extensions, which we haven't included in the template file in the past. So that'll be really good to support some design resources for those. And we're also working on some PatternFly 6 design kit onboarding for Figma. We've put together an initial guide to help you get started using the alpha versions of our design kit. So this is available on our PatternFly Figma community page, which I've linked here. And the rest of the V6 alpha libraries are also available on the community page. And then we do plan on providing more in-depth training material in the future, closer to the V6 release date. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that rundown, Lucia. Up next, we have Michael Coker, who's going to talk about some of the core work.
Hey, thank you. All right. Yeah, so this has been quite a journey and a long time in the makings, adding this system to the base CSS styles, and really makes the styling for PatternFly quite robust in having a global set of tokens that are effectively an API for styling the global styles that you see in PatternFly. So a quick rundown of how we get these tokens from design assets is Figma exports its tokens to a JSON file. We take that JSON file and we put it into a package called Style Dictionary, and that does a translation for us from JSON to the CSS variables that we're ultimately going to import into PatternFly. And then we have a documentation framework that pulls in our token information straight to the website documentation. And so that builds out the tables and things that you see in component pages that lists the variables that are available, their values, and that kind of thing. Next slide. Yeah, so tokens. All of the styles in PatternFly have been rewritten to design to consume the design tokens for CSS variables. So we have basically 3 types of variables. Palette tokens. These are just effectively our base set of colors that we're going to use across PatternFly. These tokens are just a one-to-one to a specific color. So we have palettes for a whole bunch of colors in the spectrum, so reds and blues and etc. And then we have base tokens, and so these are also a one-to-one variable to a specific value. There's no repetition of values across base tokens. So a base token may be for, say, a danger color palette. So we might use danger reds for things like backgrounds, text colors, other types of highlights, icons, etc. And for this pool of red colors that we're going to use for danger, we'll have a variable for each of the colors. And these are named attributes with a numeric suffix. So there's something like PFT global, danger color 100, danger color 200, 300, etc. And so we're just establishing a subset of colors that you could choose from for representing danger in PatternFly. And then semantic tokens, this is where the cool stuff really is. This is where we'll see the use of the tokens in components. This is also where, for theming, for users that want to customize PatternFly or develop themes and that sort of thing, semantic tokens are what you would want to override and change. And so these are meaningful tokens. So instead of danger color 100, 200, 300, we might have text color danger, background color danger, border color danger. So these are examples of semantic tokens, and the values for these semantic tokens can they can all point to one of the base danger tokens, or they could point to unique danger tokens. There's no restrictions or limitations there, but that's what you're going to see in PatternFly styles. And so the dark theme values of the token set are turned on with a CSS selector. So this speaks a little bit to the theming capability that having a really rich set of tokens allows for us to be able to develop themes, and you can extend that to users to be able to develop themes. And I'll speak about that in the next slide a little bit. But basically, with dark theme values of the token are set and turned on with the CSS selector, we just establish a class name that we're going to scope a bunch of variable changes to, semantic token changes to. And it's a dark theme class basically that you could add to the page, and then from there we redefine the global tokens to the level that we have determined that the designs look cohesive when placed in a dark theme. So we can just change our primary background colors to darker colors instead of lighter colors that they would be in a light theme. For some of the reds, for example, the danger reds, instead of using a lighter color red, I'm sorry, darker color red, which would be appropriate in a light theme. We might use a lighter color red. And all of that's super easy. We just define that class, give the token a new value, and then that proliferates throughout the system and you see it. Next slide. So this just speaks to kind of like the last thing I was saying, the beauty of it. Like, what does this allow for us to do? Among other things, as implementations move forward on components and designs and things that we have, or UIs that we have for different elements of PatternFly, the designs evolve. And we, as core developers, are working with the design team and implementing changes to the design. With the direct path from design to core code, where Figma exports its settings and we just import them into the code base for the global token system anyways. That means that design is able to pretty quickly iterate and make changes that directly affect the code. And so that's really cool. So for example, Red Hat designers adjust the official red palette. We have a larger red palette change that we need to consume from Red Hat in PatternFly. No problem. Design can update the palette color. We just export those tokens, pull them into the CSS, validate it looks okay, and then ship it. That red isn't great for accessibility. No problem. We have danger colors, and we can reassign them to a different palette color. So that allows us the flexibility to move within the system. We'd like a better hover color for reds, no problem. Semantic hover colors is updated to use a different base color. So that speaks a little bit to how robust and purposeful we have a lot of that the tokens are. We've tried to create tokens for most of the things that we have styles for across PatternFly. And so, for example, we have hover tokens and we have other state tokens and whatnot that have been integrated very tightly into the code base. And so just they act as little switches for all types of styles within PatternFly. And so it's really easy to make a global change to something to improve accessibility, for example. And then the last bit is that theming is something that tokens really enable, both with the tokens themselves being super robust, but also that they have been tightly integrated between design and then the developers in PatternFly to go exactly where they need to go and serving exactly the functions that they need. That you now have switches for all sorts of elements of styling. And so with dark theme, for example, that was mentioned in the previous slide, it's just one class that gets added to the page, and then we simply redefine global tokens, and that's it. There's no per component style for a dark theme version of a button, for example. It's all at the global level. Global tokens are able to pull that off. So that opens the door for PatternFly and users to be able to implement themes in that same manner. So looking forward, things like high contrast, maybe different color themes for different types of sighted users. You have a different color, brand color in your application than PatternFly ships with. Super easy to update that now and very consistent, especially compared to PatternFly 5, where theming was not, PatternFly 5 and previous iterations were not built with theming in mind, but PatternFly 6 is. And so super easy to do that kind of thing. So it really opens the door for PatternFly as well as users to be able to evolve and customize PatternFly. So I think that was the last slide.
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much. Up next, we have Tatani and Katie going to talk about some of the React updates.
Good morning. So the React team has been hard at work making some updates in support of Penta. But in the React space, we've been trying to minimize any breaking changes that would be outside the scope of Penta. So what that looks like in the React workspace is first of all, we had to make some updates to our React tokens package so that the scripts that generate the React tokens would take into account the global tokens. So that has been updated. And then as Core was wrapping up their consumption of the tokens in their workspace, we were consuming those in React. In some cases, that led to no changes at all from the React perspective, or in some places there were some minor changes that would cause breaking changes to the consumer. For instance, we would have to remove some props that were no longer supported. An example would be like in the master component, we had a background color prop that it will no longer be supported with Penta. So that was removed, and there are various other components where we have similar changes. So there's a lot of collaboration between the designers, Core React, as we were consuming the core changes. We had a lot of meetings where we went over the components to just verify that even though there were no changes in React, everything looked as expected. In some cases, we found things that were a little bit off. We had to go back and rework some things in Core and then bring those back into React. So there's a lot of great team collaboration there. One major component change that you will see in the React workspace is that the chip component has been deprecated. On the Core side, they removed the style sheet completely for that. And then on React side, in order to not cause a major disruption to our consumers, we have reworked the chip component to now use label under the hood. And we have deprecated that new implementation. So instead of the consumer rewriting all their chips using the label, they can now import from the deprecated path. And in the future major release, we will remove the chip component in favor of the label. And the good news is we have also been working on code mods. So for an update like that, we have a code mod available to change any of the import paths. And we have code mods for a lot of the other breaking changes that would be like API changes, as I mentioned earlier. And other work that we've been doing is Katie will cover. We're working on templates that will be introduced in V5, and Katie has more information about that. Thanks.
Yep. Hello, everyone. So I'm here to talk about the React templates. This is a new package from React team that's meant to deliver a more plug-and-play experience for the highly flexible, composable component suites. In this case, we are starting with Select. So templates are components that are packaged with logic to support a specific use case. So they will actually deliver a kind of complete common use case with some limited customization and a streamlined API with minimal additional setup required. They're much less flexible than using a component suite directly. So why would you use a template? Well, that's because if you don't need a custom solution that deviates from a common use case, say you have a simple select that's single, you want the options displayed and that's it. You don't really care about what the toggle specifically looks like, or you're pretty happy with the default toggle behavior of it replacing the content with the selected state. Well, then if you use the template, you would vastly reduce your boilerplate code. So there's the image on the right here, kind of just showcasing how different the API ends up looking, where instead of having to track yourself the open and closed state, what the actual selected state is, the behavior for how keyboard functionality works for the changing of the open state on certain keyboard functions, the focusing on the toggle, if you've selected it or not, and the toggle itself, which you have to construct. All you would have to do for the template is pass in, here's my data for my initial set of options, and here's this onSelect callback because I want you to tell me when the selected state changes, what the selected value now is. So the API for a template is going to be more informational and kind of base information to get the use case rolling, to say to, and then let's see, lost my place on this. So Yeah, it's meant to kind of give you an alternate route. If you don't need a lot of customization and you've used our demos before and you really have just been copy and pasting all of the extra code, these are meant to kind of help out and vastly reduce all of that extra code that you might be copying in multiple places. But there is some limited customization. So say the toggle content, you don't really care about setting up the toggle yourself, but maybe you want to change the placeholder text, or maybe you want to change the behavior slightly. You can pass that into the template and basically kind of customize it, but just not a full customization like you would expect from using the components directly. We are currently making templates just for Select, though it is open to feedback and encouraged to see if there's any other types of templates that might be possible, especially for some of our other modular and composable components. The basic Select and checkbox Select are what are available on launch of this package in the 5.3. The type ahead Select will be next to arrive. They are in beta, so there might be some changes to these because they're kind of a new concept for the team. But we welcome and encourage everyone to try this out because they should be very much an easier path to adoption. If you have a lot of selects and you haven't been changing them too much, then there should be a lot of room for reducing all of that boilerplate code. And we definitely encourage feedback on the templates that are currently available and any templates that may not exist yet, but you think it's a good idea. We'd love to hear about it. And as I said at the beginning, this lives in a different package, PatternFly React templates. So you will be importing from that. I think that about covers it for templates.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes,
Oh, we have a
Nicole?
question.
Well, I want to underscore one thing you said, and that is that templates are going to be available with our 5.3 release, which hopefully will be going out in the next week or so. So they will be included in V6, but also are available sooner than that. So hopefully that's exciting information to hear. And also, if there are quite a few projects who are right now undergoing, who've wrapped up their V5 migration and are trying to update their usage of deprecated components as a follow-up to reduce tech debt and prepare for the V6 launch. If you have a lot of deprecated components, or I guess if you have a lot of deprecated selects used in your code base, this is definitely something to investigate. I believe that it will expedite your migration away from deprecated select components quite significantly. That is one of the goals of this.
Cool. Very exciting. Next, we're going to do some demos. Back one. And I will just jump over to our. This is the look of the PatternFly site with the new alpha release. This is an alpha, so there might be a few things amiss. There might be some alignment issues or some functionality that's a little bit different, but there's already a list of bugs that we're working on. But already I think we're doing pretty good. All the components have been updated. Now we're going back into extensions and other parts of the library, utilities, component classes, layout classes, I mean. So there's still some work to do, but yeah, site looks awesome. Really happy. Just a couple things I want to cover. The getting started, we actually have our release highlights and upgrade information on how you would go from V5 to V6. So all that is available. There's great documentation to support any migration path. Then the release notes just cover all the different changes here. We've also added the new token section to the website. So there's quite a few, but they go from palette up all the way up to things like the status colors. And there's a couple things I wanted to call out, just jumping down. So we have specific text colors for links, for status colors, mention danger. And then we have non-status colors as well that are a little bit wider. There's purples, greens, all the different varieties. But each of these tokens have both the color non-status purple, and then they have the states of them. So there's the default, the hover, and the selected or clicked state. Things like our icon palette. They might point to the same base palette color, but we have very intentionally set things for if it's going to appear over this non-status purple background, we have a semantic token that says on non-status icon color default. So everything is done very intentionally so it will meet contrast ratio and everything's accessible. So there's a really good breakdown. Like Lucia said, it does take a lot of the guesswork out with a semantic layer. You're not trying to pick that color value of 100 purple or whatever. It's all kind of laid out very readably on screen when you're doing the Figma component, and then also that applies into the actual build itself. I'm going to go into a couple, I think I got it open, yeah. So alerts and notifications are kind of a nice one to go into.
Andrew,
And
could I ask you to reduce the size of your window a little bit so that it
Sure.
zooms in a little bit more? It's a little hard to see, like maybe even the width a little bit.
Mhm.
Yeah, oh, that makes it much easier to see. Thank you.
Cool. All right. Oh, I lost my drawer. So that's the new alert styling that Lucia had showed in her slides. And then the notification drawer pops very similarly. All the icon buttons, the smaller just icon-based buttons, have this new hover state behind them. That makes it a little bit more obvious as an interactive element when you mouse over it or hover over it. That same theming applies to the light and dark theme as well. And then all of our clickable cards and status colors are here listed. So when I click on interactive elements, I can mark all as red and they just get the default card styling from there. Sorry, alert styling. This is just a basic card page with drawer animation. There's some pagination down the bottom. And all of our menu toggle selects are available here. And this is kind of a nice built out screen using the new PatternFly styling. So there are expandable sections on the cards here, which still get the same kind of extra hover treatment just to denote that they are interactive elements. These are the non-status palette, I believe. And then there's more expandable sections with alert styling, very specific coloring. The chart palettes are in development right now. We're updating all those light and dark theme color palettes for all the charting. So some of those might be a little bit different, but they are currently in development. And then I'll switch into dark theme. And all those pretty things just translate very easily with the new token system. So that's the main demo that we have. There are demo links that I can provide in the slide deck and then in the agenda as well to share out, but I just wanted to put a nice screen in front of everyone just to show off all the hard work. I think that pretty much wraps up the demo content for now. I'll jump back into some of the slides. And the V6 project timeline. This is the alpha release that we're releasing right now. This is the grand reveal. So we'll be sharing the new look and feel with this, and along with some of the demos. Our Figma library will be available or is currently published now and will be available to anyone at Red Hat and on our community as well. We added a new milestone, kind of our Alpha 2.0. Which will include some of the utility classes and some of the cleanup work that still is ongoing. And then we're also working on the extensions library, making sure that everything is getting the new V6 classing. Our beta release is June 26th, and that will be kind of the end of breaking change work. We'll be working on the initial set of components that will be receiving animations or micro animations. And then we'll shift more into the final testing with product teams leading up to the actual release in August. And then we will have a massive party at Evan's house. I'll make up the invites. Maybe Jan, I don't know, whoever wants to have a party. All right. Next slide is for our testers. I'll hand over to Nicole.
Yes, thank you. We are hoping to thoroughly test these alpha releases and future work on PatternFly 6 before it's released by the end of the summer. Now that we have the alpha versions available, we're going to be kicking off our first round of testing of using these alphas in products. This first round of testing includes updating all of our extensions, but also a partnership with Console.dot to set up an ephemeral environment so that we can update their chroming layer to use V6 and see what happens when we pull in plugins and tenant apps which have not yet done a migration. How do things look? Evaluate what the lift is for Console.dot and presumably other products as well, in terms of how do their CSS overrides get impacted by these changes and things like that. So we're going to be kicking all that off soon, and hopefully we'll have lots of great feedback really quickly. If anyone else is interested in playing with our alpha versions, I have created a template doc that you could copy and you could follow the instructions within it. Give us the feedback, the sort of feedback we're looking for outlined in the doc, and find links for how to view and open bugs you find for the alphas. I'd love if once you've tried it out, whenever you get to whatever point you're stuck or blocked, or done with your migration to using the V6 alphas, then let me know. Give me all that feedback. Let me know the results. All your bugs will be reported and are going to be triaged and tackled as quickly as possible by the PatternFly team. By around mid-May, we'll have our second round of alphas available. Those will hopefully have addressed issues found during our first round of testing. And we'll engage even more products directly on tinkering with the second alpha and giving us their feedback on how it goes. So you're welcome to get in on this process as early as possible, or products can wait to hear from me, because there will be quite a few products that will probably hear from me before the V6 is available by the end of the summer, like I said. So thanks.
Thank you. All right, last thing, I snuck a slide in. Sorry, everyone. The PatternFly team, thank you very much. This was a lot of work. There was a lot of hackathons and working sessions. A lot of people leaning in on different teams. A lot of our React devs leaned in and helped on the core work. Design, everyone, the whole team was working on these working sessions, moving everything through. There's a lot of PR reviews to do every single component and tokenize everything. So this was a tremendous amount of work, and we're only in alpha. So by the time V6 rolls out, I'll be happy crying under my desk. But I just wanted to call out a nice thank you for everyone for all the hard work they did. And that is the end of the presentation. And please, if you have questions, comments, concerns, you just want to say, that looks beautiful, all feedback welcome.
That looks beautiful.
That's the one. Perfect. We can end here.
So it's been called out, and I know I mentioned it on a previous call too, but I'll just reiterate first how excited we are to get this up and in front of you all, and then also feedback from positive, negative questions, concerns, but also like, hey, that looks awesome. We want to get to it, but here's what's between us today and that in product, and feel free to share that with us, loop us in on what we can do to help. Hopefully the code mods help, but there's always going to be some sort of hands-on updates. And if we can partner with you, if we can collaborate, we can use some of these calls to dive into things, or set up separate conversations. We are excited to build it, excited for you to see it, and even more excited for you to use it. So keep us in the loop between now and once your customers are seeing it.
I have a question for Nicole. I know that we're moving things through the pipeline now with the release. We'll just publish that on various Slack channels when it's officially out the door.
Mm-hmm.
So stay tuned. It'll be on social media too, I'm sure.
I mean, I would say it's officially out the door. So we just haven't made the big splash of all the Slack channels hearing about it per se. But the website has the latest and it's ready. And like I mentioned, the testing template doc references the alpha versions for testing. They're ready to go. Woohoo.
Fantastic. Very exciting. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, look forward to getting feedback and hearing how the testing is going, and just getting involved and talking to more people. I look forward to seeing it out in the wild. So we can wrap 17 minutes early unless there's any objections. I'm feeling snacky, so I'm going to call it. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming. We'll see